This is tape 6 in the interview with Barbara Stimler on the 7th of December 1988 with Jennifer Wingate.
This uncle, Solomon, used to come every evening after work to my grandmother and talk to her. I didn't know what he was talking about. Now, I mentioned also a lady I used to work with. I don't know, did I mention the lady who was Jewish and married to a man who was also in the Polish army, but he was a Jew, Faye? Her name, yes.
Yes.
No, Faye was a friend as well. I had two Fays.
Oh, no.
Yes, the young woman what I used to work, her name was Faye, and she was married to a gentleman called Joe, and he was also from Poland. He was also in the Polish army under the British command, and they met in England and they married here, but they were also very kind to me, and from time to time they used to invite me. And one day he says to me, look, we've got some friends, and these friends met a young man while they were standing in the Foreign Office because his friend wanted to go somewhere to Poland or somewhere, had to have some papers. And in front of him was staying in the queue a young man who's supposed to be very nice. He's from Krakow, and we would like you to meet him. So I thought to myself, all right, well, doesn't cost any money. But in meantime already, I had a little bit tough with my grandmother because she wanted me to be early home. When I went to the cinema, came 11:15, 11 o'clock, she used to lock me out. She wouldn't give me the keys, only from the front door out, but not from the flat. And I had to stay all night on the stairs and sleeping. It was a bit tough, and I got fed up. And I was all the time corresponding with the Weisses who left Poland and went to Germany, to Munich, while they were also waiting for papers to go to Africa, where Weiss had a sister. Ignaz Weiss had a sister living there. And I forgot also to tell you that after 3 months, when I was in England, my boyfriend, Zygmunt, wrote to me a letter that he wanted me to come back. And I didn't know, I was crying and laughing. They thought I'd gone mad, the family there. And we started to correspond. And he wrote to me also that he's working now for his father, and he's got his own flat, and the father even bought me a Persian lamb coat. His stepmother should not see, it's all hidden and all this. So I wrote to him back a letter, and I thanked him and all this, and I'm looking forward to see you start making the papers to go back to Germany. But I would go, that's how, not yet. I didn't start making yet the papers. Or I did, yes. I did start making the papers to Germany. And you see, because 1 year, this 47 winter, Ignaz wrote to me a letter, I should send a winter coat for Irma. And I had to write to him the truth, that I haven't got myself to wear it. And I told him what I've got with the family. So he said to me, do me a favor, come back to us, what we will eat, you will eat, and you come back, you go with us to Africa. But in the meantime, I was writing to him, to this Zygmunt. And suddenly I'm getting a letter from his stepmother that it will be a burden to her husband if I come now to Munich. They're also trying to get papers to either to Brazil or to America, and I should wait till they will go to America or Brazil and then come to them. And another letter follows. And I wrote to him, and I'm not getting an answer from him. Because the stepmother was going there with a maid to clean or something, and they found the letters. So I thought to myself, I'm going back there to fight. I have enough here. And so I stopped writing to him completely, and we stopped the correspondence. And in the meantime, I'm telling you the story how I met my husband. So when Joe and Faye said to me they would like me to meet this young man who comes from Krakow, and that was just Easter time. So Easter, we were invited to these people, friends of theirs, which I forgot the name. And
Passover?
no, just Easter.
Oh, just
Easter did not come the same time as Passover somehow. It didn't coincide. And I went to them because everybody was working, as you know, and as Easter was bank holidays. So on a Sunday I went there, and this young man is there. His name was Edward Stiller, and all this. So then he took me home, and he said to me, could he see me tomorrow, which was a Monday, also a bank holidays. So I said, okay. And so we saw each other, and I said to him, he wanted me to see him again on Saturday, which Faye and her husband Joe invited us both. But I said to him, I cannot come because I'm going to Birmingham to my cousins, which was true. I had a cousin in Birmingham, and they invited me for a few days because it was just a slack time in the factory as well, so I thought I can take 2 days off. And so when Edward, he is my husband now, which he changed his name because I tell you afterwards, he went himself back to Faye and Joe for the supper. He went himself. And they said, where is Barbara? So she said she's going to Birmingham. And I never mentioned to Faye. So she thought that I've got an excuse. Oh. So when I come back and I phoned them, so she said, where were you? Why didn't you come? So I said, I did go to Birmingham, to Galina's, to my cousins. So she says, oh, I thought you were telling him a fib because you want to get rid of him. I said, no, he's really quite a nice man. I don't mind to meet him again. Okay, she says, you come over tonight. And I went there, and I had to write a letter that I'm meeting him on Thursday in Mabelage, corner house there in Mabelage.
To write a letter?
Yes, and because I couldn't phone him.
Oh, I see what you mean.
He didn't have a phone.
Oh,
you see, he was living also on digs. And they posted the letter, and I went there, and he was waiting. He was waiting for me, and we walked around the Hyde Park and all this, and he proposed to me. So I thought to myself, what shall I do? Go back to Germany? Go back with them to Africa? What do I know? What am I going to do? And I just played horses because it's like on a lottery. I was bidding horses, how you say, because I didn't know him really.
You'd only met him?
Yes, twice, and that was the third time. And I said to him, he told me that his name is not Edward Stiller, his name is Lodz Stimler, which we changed to Leonard in English, because when he was in Russia and he had typhoid, he was terribly ill. He wanted to join the army, and that was the only one thing to get himself better, to join the army. And as a Jew, they wouldn't take him in. So he had to change the name and make himself as a Gentile. So through all the war, he was as a Gentile, you see. And when we got engaged, I said I accepted him. Excuse me, not yet. Not engaged yet. So I said I would like to come and meet my uncle and my grandmother. So that was Thursday, so I made lunch, nice lunch for Friday night. And my uncle said he's not a Jew. He's not a Jew because he really, he looked very Gentile. So I said, look, tomorrow I'm supposed to meet him. He's supposed to come here. I go to my friend Rena, and I phone you. You ask him something about Jewishness. And I go to my friend Rena. If he's not, so I'm not coming. I'm not going to see him. If he is, so I come back. So I phoned him. He says, yes, you can come. He asked me, which hand do you like to film? And you know, till about last 5 years ago, Len did not know why Uncle asked him that, and I told him anyway. So we got engaged. I took him to meet my aunt and uncle. I said, that is a necessity, because whatever we can get out from them, we can get out from them. He's had nothing. He had 28 pounds, what he had from the army. He was living in Dick's, and he bought me a little ring, diamond ring, for this money. And we had 100 pounds from my grandfather. And of course, my grandmother had a house, and she wanted to share in 3. Like for me, for the uncle who lives upstairs, and the oldest son who lived around the corner. But he was working so hard on her, and he says it should be only put on his name and Uncle Ben's name. So grandmother said, okay, she is getting married. She needs the money. She's got to have a place to live. Give me at least 100 pounds for her. I've got 100 what grandfather left, and give me another at least 100 pounds. So she said, okay, I give you 10 pounds a week. He was a gambler, unfortunately, my uncle. So he gave her first week the 10 pounds. So she gave it to me. I put it in the post office, like I put 100 pounds also in the post office, because we didn't have no bank accounts. And the second week he does give her the money. So she says to him, what's the matter, Solomon, what's... So he started to shout that time it was uprising in Israel. What is she, and what is she doing here? Let her go to Israel. She can live also in furniture rooms. And all this, I said to him, I can't go to a furniture room because Len is doing tailoring. And he wants to do private work to help ourselves out. We should have one day our own place. And if he goes to a furniture place, he can't write a machine, machine and all this. Anyway, and he left. Grandmother woke up in the night, very ill, so I call Uncle Ben from upstairs. He calls Uncle Solomon. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. He comes in, and the first thing he does, he points the finger at me, and this is all her fault, that Mama is ill. She should go to Israel to fight there. What's she doing here? What does she disturb our lives? I said, Uncle, I fought enough in my life. You send your children. And he had also 3 daughters and a son. And it was just terrible row. I went to work with eyes like that, and apparently Uncle Ben phoned to my aunt, to my rich aunt, what happened. So they phoned me to the factory about 11 o'clock, one of my cousins, Barbara, we've got an empty flat, and we would like you to see it, and you can have it. So I left the factory early. I was meeting Len 6 o'clock on the station, because I was going to him prepare something to eat, and to eat together, because we no homes. Anyway, and that was the easiest. And then he took me back to Ledbrow by train and went back himself. And so so I said to her, listen, I will not mention the names again. I don't care if it is in the loft or in the cellar. Keep this place for me. So I went earlier from the factory, and took the keys, they gave me the address, and if you don't mind, that was the horrible place where I went to collect the rent with my cousin. My God, if I would know that time that I'm going to live there, I certainly would turn back and go back home, even to Poland, never mind to Germany. Anyway, but I accepted it because I already, we were engaged and we wanted to get married. So they booked a wedding in Stearns. Uncle asked me, what do I want, a wedding or a bedroom suite? What do I want a bedroom suite for? I thought I better have a wedding, have few pounds. Anyway, so they made a wedding and they invited all their pals, all their friends. I had only few friends of mine. And my aunt said I should go on, so I had also £106 from the wedding presents, and my aunt suggested that I should go for honeymoon. So she didn't suggest to take £20 and give me for the honeymoon. I said, okay, so we went to Westcliff, and we had a cruise for half a crown on the boat. I bought about a dozen cards and sent everybody a card, and then I came back home. That was our honeymoon. But I forgot to tell you one story. When I was still living by my aunt, my cousin, which I told you they had a hairdressing salon in Woolsden, and she had a little girl of 3. It was her birthday. And I told you that I looked after them when they were, babysitting.
Yes.
And I took her to Lyons Corner House for tea and took her to Woolworths and bought her some bits and pieces for a few pennies. And the bus stop, when we went back home, and the bus stop where we got off in Woolsden was just where my cousin's hairdressing salon. So she left me, she runs to her father showing what I bought her. And hairdressers years ago had cubicles. And I ran after her, Dina, come back because Daddy's working. And I look in the mirror, and it's my friend Bella, with whom I was in Lodz Ghetto and Auschwitz and Pirschkau. She is the niece of Bennett, the hairdresser, the photographer. Bennett Boris, I don't know if your time, maybe your mother would know. You can imagine, we jumped at each other, and it was unbelievable. And then, of course, we were in contact all the time. Unfortunately, when she was 39, she had a stroke, and she was not able to talk. Her left side was all numb. Her hand is still numb. She drags her left leg, and she had also 2 boys, and now they live in Edgware here, not far. Her husband is very ill. It's very tough for her. But anyway, and I had to tell you this little story as well, because the world is so small. Yes. And that's why she is my witness, if it comes to it, what I helped the girls with the food. I was singing. Funny, when I first met her, I met in a crowd, come and sing. And I couldn't, because I was so unhappy here in England. I never sang, and I completely lost my voice. I couldn't just sing. It's terrible what happens to a person when you are unhappy. So we were living in that Cable Street for a year. I got pregnant after 3 months, and my little boy was born, Harvey Jacob, which was after my husband's father's name and my father's name. And we saved every penny what we could. I was working still in the factory till the last minute. Len got himself a better job, because when I met him, he was only earning £4.05 a week. When he asked for a rise, they gave him only 10 shillings, which was not enough. My uncle asked me 13 shillings a week for the rent, for this place, which I found out afterwards. The previous tenants only paid 10 and 6, but never mind. I didn't need anything from them. My uncle Solomon never turned up to the wedding. And but I was happy. Len changed his name to a proper name, Leonard Stimler. And I found out that he had 2 sisters in Israel who were also in Auschwitz. And we started building up work very, very hard. He was working till 1 o'clock in the morning, taking private jobs.
What sort of work?
His father was a tailor, and he really did not know much tailoring. But in the army, when he was in Italy, he bought a pattern and started cutting and doing things. So when we got married, he took on, a man was going to Israel. He was making for him 3 suits. It took him a whole month to make 1 suit. I can't tell you, I was just going out, I was pregnant, and I couldn't sit there and seeing how he's pulling it and cutting it and sewing it back. Oh, golly. Anyway, Len is a very, very versatile man and very, very clever. Very clever. He can mend the car, and he can build a house, and he can make a suit. That is true. All this central heating, everything, electricity, he put up all in this. Yeah. Anyway, so we were living there for a year because there were prostitutes and gangsters living in this house. Once the police came on Saturday morning when Len went to work Saturday because he wanted to earn as much money possible to save to get out from there, to buy a proper place to live, somewhere in a proper district before the baby is coming. And the police just opened the door and come in. So, civilians. So, and I was just dusting, getting up in the morning and dusting over the place. He apologized. I said, look, he says, I'm terribly sorry, but you should keep your doors closed. He says, you know what people are living here. I said, I don't. He says, they are gangsters and prostitutes. I went downstairs in the basement, and a man was sleeping with few women. So you must keep your door closed, locked. Anyway, and I would like to see your husband. So after work, when Len came, so he explained to him that what people are living there, then all this and that and that. Anyway, we saved in 1 year £500 with my work and his work overtime, and he was already earning over £7 a week. And
You were working?
I was working till the last minute of my pregnancy. Oh yes, yes. But I was only working till 4 o'clock because getting heavy. And summer, I had Harvey in October, so through the summer I was really feeling ill. And one time I was so terribly ill, and my friend Rena she came first herself. Her mother prepared some chicken soup and special meat for me, white meat to eat. And the next day she sent a woman who cleaned for her. She was very good to me. And we lived there in Cable Street for a year. Before I had the baby, we wanted to buy a house in Dalston, which we had a deposit, and maybe to buy some furniture, but we was afraid in case, sometimes with the job, if they are slack, he hasn't got work, and we left without a penny with a child. So we're holding on to it. But while I was in hospital, having Harvey, my oldest son, my first child, Len knew somebody, and they found a flat in Hampstead, and they wanted £150 key money, which was better, and it was a 1-bedroom flat. So for the moment I needed only a cot, so it was okay. But it was very tough for me because Harvey was a little bit chesty, and he was crying in the night, and Len was sleeping. It was not so easy for me. But we stayed there, and in the meantime, Len opened his own factory, and I was helping him, dragging Harvey with me every day. Then I put him in a nursery, but he didn't like it. He made himself ill, and it was very difficult for me, but I had to help my husband in the business. We had some people working for us already, and
This was making clothes?
clothes, yes. Where he was working on wages, the manufacturer could see that he's everything in this factory, so he used to give him a lift home. He says, Len, why don't you open for yourself, and I will help you. And that's how we started in our kitchen. And then he took a small place in Mortimer Market. It's off Tottenham Court Road. It doesn't exist anymore. We stayed there for the year, and then we moved the factory to Greek Street, where we already had 30 people working for us. I was not going every day, not early in the mornings, which easier for me. But I was putting still Harvey into the nursery. And I met somebody, and she was also sending the child to the nursery, so they both together, and the other one was a little bit tougher, so he looked after Harvey, and Harvey was not so feeling sorry for himself. But I still forgot to tell you, when I had Harvey, it was in a maternity home in Commercial Road, because that was just around the corner where I was living, you see, so that's where I was going to hospital. And I had, as the milk was coming in, I had a terrible bump growing under my left arm. And that's supposed to be the milk or something. But I forgot also to tell you that my period completely stopped and had to be brought on after the war. And everything was upside down, you see, in the system, in the bodies. Everything somehow didn't work properly. I mean, I blew up. I was so big. People thought that I'm fat, but it was not. My uncle took me to the doctor, and the doctor said it was all baby fat coming out. And when she gets married and has a normal life, everything, and she will lose the weight, and was true. After a fortnight I was married, you couldn't recognize me. I went to size 14 in a fortnight. It just ran away. It might be water, I don't know what it was. But
your bad diet?
Yes. My stomach I looked like pregnant. I really looked bad. Anyway, so we were after that. So when I was in hospital, so I was about over 3 weeks, because they had to operate me, and none of my family came to see me. I was broken-hearted. Only my cousin, the one who I used to babysit, the husband came to the Brist with his brother and brought me a gift for the baby. Nobody came, nobody sent me anything, nothing. They were not interested if I have a pram, if I have any clothes for my baby, nothing. None of them were interested. So, but my friend Rena, she had a child which was nearly 2 years older than mine. And knowing that I was already pregnant, she was putting things away, and she gave it to me. And when I got married, she gave me, let's say, sheets. You know, they were trying to build a home up for me, because my aunt gave me a dressing gown for my wedding present. I needed the dressing gown like I needed a hole in my head. Of course, I was going on honeymoon to Westcliff on a cruise for 26. Anyway, so we lived there in Hampstead for 5 years, and building up a business. We started saving money, and we put where we were living there, Len took a policy for £500 in case something happens to him. I shouldn't be on the street with my child. And then when we saved money to put a deposit on a house, we bought a house in Neasden.
Okay.
Did I mention that we lived 5 years in Hampstead?
We lived 5 years in
Hampstead. And then we built up our business, and I was helping as much as I could. And we put a deposit on a house in Neasden, a small 3-bedroom house, and where Harvey could have his own room, and I could put a bed for him, because till 5 he was sleeping in a cot, and it was not funny. What I did, I let one bedroom, the main bedroom I let. We were sleeping in this medium, in the second bedroom, and the box room, Harvey had his own bedroom. And I used to get £2.50 a week for this furnished room. And for this money, I paid out for his bed, and I bought a little cocktail cabinet and a carpet. I had carpets, like fitted carpets in the 2 rooms, and this money paid me out the loan what I took, I remember, in Williams's in Kilburn.
So what year was this now?
We got married in 48, yes. Harvey was born in 49, and we were living in Cabusit, it's 50. That must
1953.
1954 that was, because my other son was born 55, so must be the end of 54 or beginning of 55. Anyway, so no, excuse me, it's May 55, I think it was, because Stuart was born in December, yes, and I fell pregnant, that's right. Then, I forgot what I stopped.
You were talking about moving into this house.
Yes,
and
yes.
Your son had his
Yeah,
own room,
yes,
buying the
bed, yes, yes.
and having let the room.
Yes, it was lovely. It was not so pleasant to have people living with you, but when we were in the flat, we had to share a bathroom and toilet with a whole family, so that was nothing already. It was a nice young couple, which the parents lived round the corner, and they stayed with us for a year because they were also saving to put a deposit on a house, and that helped me quite a lot. So then I became pregnant, which I really didn't want anymore, because Harvey was already 5. And we went, what it was that Harvey was chesty, and he was under private doctor. And he suggested to me I should take him to Switzerland, which I said I can't afford. But so he says, a change of air, if you take him to the seaside summer, that will be fine. I said, oh, that is okay then. For Easter we went for like a weekend to Bournemouth, and there we found a place in Boscombe with a family where I was supposed to stay a whole month with Harvey. And Len brought us in the car. We had already a car. Yes, we had a car, and he brought us to Boscombe, and he used to come in the weekends by train. And on the 3rd weekend, when I was there, I became ill, very sick. So I said it must be my liver, because I'm not used to fried fish and chips. You see, we're staying with the English family. They were very kind, they were childless, and they were looking after Harvey, I cannot tell you, really. And so they called the doctor. So the doctor asked me, are you pregnant? I said, wouldn't I know? I would know anyway. So, not realizing actually that my period stopped.
Because your period had been irregular?
Yes, right. This was the point. It was irregular. Anyway, once I had to go to the doctor and they gave me iron medicine because it stopped. You see, anemic. Anyway, so I said, it's impossible. I said, I'm not married yesterday or today. I would know. So he left it at that. Len was phoning every evening. So he phoned me on that Thursday evening. That would happen just on Thursday. And as I'm speaking to him, I just managed to say, Len, do me a favor, bring the car this weekend because I want to go home. And I can't speak to him anymore. I fainted on the floor, and so he phoned back to the people. They spoke, and they said to them that I had the doctor. So he wanted the doctor's number, so he phoned to the doctor, and probably the doctor said, maybe I think your wife is pregnant. I don't know. He came on Friday after work with a car. Usually he used to stay till Sunday, but Saturday morning we start making the way home. And I was ill on the way. We had to stop every minute. I was not sick anymore, I felt bad. Anyway, on next Monday I still had the doctor in Kilburn because he was a Polish doctor and I was used to him. And I'm getting off the bus, going in the morning to the doctor to see what's wrong with me. And my friend who had on the corner a shop there, a jewelry shop, she just comes out and she says, oh, Barbara, you do look pregnant. That's what are you talking about? I've got liver trouble. Now, so it made me think now, because she was quite a clever woman. And I trot to the doctor. He says, look, maybe it is liver trouble, but maybe not. Why don't you go and be examined by a gynecologist? I said, okay. So he gave me a private gynecologist with the thought, if I'm pregnant, I'm going to get rid of it. So when I was examined by him, Len went with me, of course, to the gynecologist. He was waiting in the waiting room. He says, you are pregnant 6 weeks. 6 weeks pregnant, and £100 if it is in your home, and 130 if it is here. So I said, I have to speak to my husband. So I went for a walk with him, with Len, near the surgery there. And I said, look, he says, it's up to you what you want. It's up to you. So I said, I don't know when it happened. I really did not know. And how it happened. So I suppose it's beshared to have it. So I'm going to go through with it. So I went back to the doctor. I said, no, I decided that I'm going to go through with it, not have an abortion. And that's what it was. Stuart was born.
What made you consider originally the idea that you didn't want
I
another?
couldn't take it anymore. I knew that I was not, my nerves were bad. That I did not bring up my child properly. I didn't have no patience.
And do you feel that? Is
I
because of
felt
your
inside
child?
me, yes.
Yes.
I felt that I make the child nervous. He was getting eczema, my older son, and running to the doctors backwards and forwards. He was under Great Ormond Street Hospital. I just couldn't go through. So, but I thought, if God, I don't know when it happened, God wants me to have another child, I'm going to have another child. And Stuart was born. I made arrangements in Hampstead maternity home, Queen Mary's maternity home in Hampstead. They were very, very nice, because it was difficult to get in with a second child, you know. Yes.
People had them at home usually?
Yes. Second child, it was very difficult that time. I don't know how it is now, but I was just lucky they got me in. They also, I also had a place also in the university college, but then I didn't. I know that they have to learn, and you have to, but I just couldn't go through with it to be mucked about. You see, but I know was wrong because they have to learn. Anyway, so the second choice was better for me, and Stuart was born, and I had a terrible problem with him. He had on the side, I could see, he had like a patch, which they put blue stuff on it. I didn't know what it was. But after 10 months, I could see he's getting eczema on his hands, and he had the first attack. I knew it was asthma, but I didn't want to know it was asthma. I thought, I'm not going to go through with another child like that. I was holding this child all night. His little body couldn't breathe anymore. And my husband said, you're killing it. What are you doing? I have to call a doctor. I just didn't want to hear that he's got asthma. Anyway, the doctor came. He's got asthma. He's got asthma. He's very bad. They took him to hospital. And he was better. He was better. And I started to be, my nerves started to go. I want to cut myself out, to take it out of myself. What? I don't know, but I felt ill. The doctor said, I have to see a psychiatrist. I went to see a psychiatrist. You have to go in. You have to go into a nursing home. So then start to make arrangements for Stuart to go into a nursery somewhere to be looked after. He couldn't afford it to send me and him to. So the doctor made arrangements for an, do you call it council nursery? You know,
a council nursery, a creche?
Yes. And the lady came to see me, or was it a gentleman? I don't remember, and saw what state I was in, and they took Stuart in, and I went to the nursing home, which was in King Langley.
King's Langley.
King's Langley.
Yes.
And I was there. You should be there about 3 months, but I had there a truth injection, and apparently I was talking all night and all day. And when I woke up, I was in such a state, my head, everything was bursting. I just was in a terrible state. And they were writing what I was saying. That time they didn't have tape recorders, so they had to write down everything. And I don't know if I mentioned that I was under Dr. Bierer. And when I felt better, the doctor allowed to bring the children in to see me. That was, I think, about after a month, something like that. And Stuart didn't recognize me. It was a terrible, terrible experience I went through. He didn't want to come to me at all. And I really felt terrible that my own child doesn't recognize me, and start realizing, what am I doing to my family, to my husband? And after a week later, I spoke to Dr. Bierer, and I said to him, I think I better go home, because I can see that my child doesn't recognize me. I'm ruining financially my husband as well. And I thought it would be, so he said to me, it's the best for you, what you think is the best to do. So, but you are not fit to look after the children, especially after the baby. Your husband has to have somebody to look after them. So when the next day my husband came, I told him. He spoke to Dr. Bierer about it, started making arrangements to get somebody. And we got a maid from Italy. And as soon as I came home, of course, and as soon as she came, I had a bit of an experience, because we had a girl coming, and then she wrote a letter where she's supposed to come. A few days before, we received a letter from her that the mother is ill, she can't come. Oh, I was in a terrible state. I was sitting from 8 o'clock on the staircase, waiting till the offices are opening from the people who, who arranged for people to come from abroad to work.
The immigration office?
No. The maids coming from,
an agency.
An agency.
Yes.
And I got hold of somebody in Finchley, and I was just crying to her that if you got somebody, please keep it for me, because I can't get my baby out from the nursery unless I get somebody to look after them. So she says, fortunately, I've got somebody here who left an Italian girl, and they went for holidays and didn't leave her any money or any food, and she wants to leave there. I said, keep her there for me, whatever I want her. And I quickly dressed myself, and that time I didn't drive, and I dressed myself, quickly went to Finchley Road to the agency and brought the girl. She couldn't speak a word English. She was from the south of it, a real peasant, but I gave her lunch, and quickly we went to collect Stuart. Before I had the girl, I went a couple of times to see Stuart in the nursery, and he was just going with me, because a lady went with him and bought him sweets and an ice cream. But as soon as I brought him back, and he saw the nurse who came in with the children from the park, he just left me and ran to her. He just didn't want to know me. Anyway, I brought him home with a girl, and slowly everything was all right. And I was coming slowly to myself. I was feeling slowly better. And I had only the girl for about 6 weeks, because we couldn't afford to keep a maid, where she wanted more money. And before she went, we made arrangements for an au pair, which was much cheaper, for £1 or £1.25 or whatever it was, and £1.50, I think. And I had the first au pair, which was fantastic, a girl also from Naples. She was a student, not far from Naples, but she was a student, a place called Vico Equense. And she was really lovely. Her name was Elvira. And the life started to be more normal. Unfortunately, Stuart started to suffer terribly with this asthma business. And he was really very, very ill. He was taken to hospital. And he started actually with eczema. I don't know if I mentioned before. I did. Yes. And also when he had an attack of asthma.
Yes. One attack.
Yes. Are we living already in Watford Road, or are we still living in Neasden? This is what I don't remember.
You didn't mention that you'd moved.
Anyway, and of course I didn't. And then it started.
So where were you living?
In Neasden.
You're still in Neasden?
Yes, that's what I think. Yes. It is Neasden. And then we start to get to know about that people are getting restitution money from Germany. And I was recommended to a Dr. Cohen, who was a judge in Germany before the war, but he was here doing all the arrangements for people to get money. Mm-hmm. We phoned up, and my husband went with me to him. We phoned up for an appointment, and my husband went with me to him. And I was there for about 4 hours talking to him, or maybe longer, all my experiences, war experiences. I didn't mention everything because I was a little bit shy in front of my husband. Mm-hmm. It was a little bit difficult.
Mm-hmm. What year was this, Barbara?
Stuart was born, so it must be about 56, 57, I don't remember exactly. Right. But they were paying from 49, I think, or something like that. They were paying back-paying money. And it came out, first money was for working and being in the camps, which was £850 in English money after the solicitor took his commission. So my husband sold his car and we put together the money and we bought a house, a property. I was always very unsure, very not. I think the medicine is doing something to me. What I was taking, I can't remember. He was. We bought this house to I should be more secured. That's right. Mm-hmm. My husband's business was not secured because it was a seasonable business. Mm-hmm. When the season was there, it was very nice. But when 3 months we didn't have no work, all the money what we saved went again because we had to pay, keep the people and mm-hmm. pay the expenses of the business. But so I always was very insecure, and I said to my husband, if we would buy a property and it would be a certain income and something, God forbid, happens to him, so, or he's not well, I can always look after it myself, not realizing how difficult it was, and I couldn't do it. But he was quite good, and he really carried on with his business and with that. But the first property I borrowed £100 from my cousin to buy some furniture, and we were painting ourselves and we were scrubbing and washing ourselves and preparing the property to be let.
Yes, to tenants.
To tenants, yes. And we still lived in Neasden. Mm-hmm. Then, after a year, we saved money. My husband put a deposit on a car because it was very, very difficult for him without a car in the business. He had to deliver work and he didn't have a car, so he had to always take taxis. And of course going to work, this was very difficult for him. Sometimes he used to work till 1 o'clock in the morning and he didn't have no buses, so he had to walk. It was very difficult for him. And most of the evenings he brought the work home and he used to work at home till very, very late. My Gentile neighbor said to me, not a wonder the foreign people get on, never seen anybody working like you, because she couldn't sleep in the night and she could see the lights in the dining room and lunch where my husband was working. And that's how slowly we built ourselves up. Then a year later came another bunch of money, which was for loss of education and loss of health. And that was, I think, £1,250, which we bought another property. You see, some people, when they got the money, they used to go for holidays, bought themselves a fur coat and a diamond ring, and the money went. Mm-hmm. But we are thinking of the future, mm-hmm. to secure ourselves. And coming from home where my mother was always very tidy and had always lovely, lovely home, I was putting everything in my home. So then we could afford, we saved some money. I sold my house for £4,750, and we wanted to buy a house, a bigger house, because I found that the children had to have a separate bedrooms, mm-hmm. suffering both with asthma. And so we bought a house in Harrow, where it was 5,400. We didn't want to go over to pay more than 1,000 to take another policy and pay more than about £1 or £2 a week, because you couldn't afford to pay more. But I was quite happy. It was a beautiful, beautiful house, and we built on there afterwards because I had this income from the houses, and then I had my own pension from the Germans, mm-hmm. which was, according to the index link, was going up.
Oh, this was paid yearly?
No, monthly I get a pension. Now I still get a pension.
May I ask how much it is?
Now it would be about £370 a month. I was casted as a middle class. According to my father's business and schools I was going to, which I had to produce witnesses. And the school I was going, I told you, where I was one Jewish child, it still existed. I don't know if it exists now, but soon after the war, I told you, I went there, and they were existed, and they could check it on me anyway. So everything was correct.
And you're still getting this?
Oh yes, I'm getting, I was really checked by German doctors. Last time I think it was about 7 years or 8 years ago, and they stopped it, checking me. I used to go every year to a German doctor, and I had to be checked.
Because they were giving you a pension because
of
you
my
suffered
loss.
Physically.
That's right,
Yes.
mentally, physically. And mostly mentally, not so much physically as mentally. And that's what I...
But you say they stopped examining you, but
Yes.
they're still giving you...
Yes, because I think after a certain age, they stopped examining me, which I think I was about 52. They could see I won't get better. It's there. They can see my life story. How can one get better after all this experience? And the children suffering as well. When I used to take Harvey, my older son, to Great Ormond Street Hospital, where I had to take him every 2 weeks for examinations, and one day I didn't go because I have not been well, and my husband took him. So they said, Mr. Stimler, you're tonic to your child. That means I was the poison and he was the tonic. As I told you before, I was not fit to have children, but I had them, and I'm grateful to God. And I've got the grandchildren, so I'm grateful to God as well. And then I started suffering with my back very badly. We lived in Watford Road for about 23 and a half years in Harrow. And my two sons, also, Harvey was going to private schools. Then he went to Buckingham College, and he had a bit of difficulties with passing his exams. He got for dentistry in London Hospital, but he didn't take the life too serious, I suppose, his studies, and the first years he just didn't pass and had to leave, which was a terrible, terrible disappointment to us. It's like throwing your future into the gutter, but I was very ill from it. My husband was very, very disappointed. What could we do? We couldn't do nothing. We tried to get him into Malta, to Canada, but we just couldn't. And so he was doing physiotherapy, but he was not so keen on it either. And we started with jewelry, which I had a friend who had we still have him, the friends here in London. They had, they manufactured jewelry. So I said to him, Henry, do me a favor, take Harvey for a fortnight and see if because he's getting on now, he's 20, and what is he going to do? It's a terrible problem. Can't keep a boy of that age already. Anyway, very, very versatile Harvey is, and whatever he looked at, he could do it with his hands. It was fantastic. He was there a fortnight, and he wanted to do in a fortnight everything. Then, so my friend said, he wants to know everything in a fortnight, but after a fortnight he really left, and he went into a
This is tape 7 and the final tape in the interview with Barbara Stimler on the 10th of December 1988 with Jennifer Wingate.
Harvey got himself engaged to a young lady and got himself a job in where they were producing jewelry, and after a month, the man called him in. He says, he was doing fantastically well. He says, but you're too intelligent to stand on the bench. You should do something else. So I'm going to introduce you to a gentleman who's a wholesaler, and he will employ you as a traveler, to travel with jewelry and to sell. And that's what this man introduced him to this Mr. Young, and Harvey was doing the selling for him. But Harvey wanted to be on his own. So his young lady was willing to help him. We helped him financially as well. We're helping him all the time financially, let's face it. And he starts selling jewelry in the markets. And he was doing very, very well. He was doing the repairs himself, and he was taking orders, and he started doing himself jewelry. He made himself a little workshop in the garden shed, and he was doing quite well. Anyway, this engagement went off 6 weeks before the wedding, which was another heartbreak, but in a way we're happy because it was not the right girl really for him. For a fortnight he was sitting at home. He didn't, he was a little bit upset, and then he went out with other boys. Luckily he met some boys who are still his age, who are not engaged and not married, and going out after a fortnight, he met his future wife in a gym in Finchley Road. And she came in one evening, and I thought, oh, what a lovely girl she is. And they got married, thank goodness. And she still helped him also in the market, but they started looking for a shop. And a shop was going in Mill Hill, like a half of the shop. And he phoned up to the owner, and the owner was one of his ex-professors, and of course he let him have the shop, and that's how Harvey started. Then 3 years ago, or 3 years ago, he changed for a bigger shop, where thank God we could help him again. And as I say, he's happily married with 2 young children. Well, Marcus is 8, and Marcus is named after my daughter-in-law's father. She lost her father when he was 12, and she was also one child, and she had also quite a bit of experience on her own. And Tamara is 5, and Tamara Sarah. Sarah is after my mother. And we're very lucky because they show us a lot of love. And really we didn't have the time for our own children because we were working both very hard. I used to help my husband all those years in the factory, though I didn't mention before. After I got better, I used to have girls in the house, and I used to go to work till the children were young. And then when Stuart started going to school for another 2 years, I think I had an au pair, and then I didn't have anybody, just a lady coming twice a week to help me with the cleaning the house. And every day I practically went to the factory and helped my husband, which was really better for me too, because I was occupied with something, not thinking. But in the meantime, also I got ill again. My nerves started to be bad. I can't tell you what year it was, but maybe I can count it up when I had. And when Stuart was about 5, I didn't have any more girls, and I got myself quite ill. Yes. And my nerves started to be really bad, and I was recommended to Dr. Creamer, who was a neurologist. And he was, first I went to him privately, and then I was attending for a long time the in Queen's Square, Nervous Disease Hospital.
Oh, yes, the Hospital for Nervous
Disease in Queen's Square. I was under Dr. Creamer. I had to go every week there. And then I went every 2 weeks. And then after 3 weeks, and then after 4 weeks, and I was going to him for about 4 years till he got me better. And he was, when I was, then I got myself ill. I had peritonitis, and the sisters and the nurses were very kind to me, and they said to me, "You're very tense, you will never get yourself better." So I realized then that I must have my tablets what Dr. Creamer gave me. And my husband told the sister that I was under Dr. Creamer, and they got in touch with the hospital, and then I had these tablets back, and I slowly got myself better, but it took about 9 months before I was better. I was very, very ill.
What were your symptoms this second time? Was that again?
Yes,
Great
not.
nervousness?
I was talking, and again my feelings were so terrible, and I felt bad.
It's still because of your
Experience. Oh yes, it was coming
but
back.
you were aware of that.
Yes. Oh yes.
You were aware that it was your past.
That's right.
causing
That's why I ran straight away to the doctor to be helped before I get myself in Shelly. That's what I was afraid, you see, that I shouldn't get myself to a mental home. So before it starts, as soon as I start something which I knew, and my husband also sees the symptoms. He could see it. I was driving him crazy every night, talking with the past, and he couldn't take it anymore because he also gets upset. He also lost his parents and a brother of 5 and a brother which was about 3 years younger than him. And you know, you can't take these things, to listen to all these things all the time. So that's what made me to go to Dr. Creamer, which I was recommended to. And then I started to suffer very badly with my back. And we had to move from Watford Road. Do you want me to tell you about something about Stuart? My younger son, yes. Now, before then, I will tell you about Stuart. We moved into Watford Road, and Stuart was about 5, I don't remember. We're living 23.5 years there, but anyway, 23.5 years there, and 3 years in Beechcroft Gardens, and for 28 years ago I'm talking about, am I? 28 years ago. So he would be, he's 33.
So 5, yeah.
Pardon, 5, he was 5. And I still had a girl there when we moved, and he got himself ill. Again, he couldn't breathe, he was so ill, he had spots. So I called the doctor who was living opposite me. She came in, and I told her he mustn't have penicillin because it brings eczema on him. Actually, he was just having, that time when I called Dr. Bach, which was living opposite me, he only had, he was breathing heavy, you know. So I asked her not to give him, she wanted to give him antibiotics, but please don't give him any penicillin because he gets this eczema spots. So she gave him something else, and then the next morning he was really ill and he was full of spots and he could hardly breathe. So I found, and had 102 temperature, I found her, Dr. Bach, Stuart's got terrible spots, the eczema came and he can't breathe, he's got 102 temperature. Dress him, she says to me, and bring him over. I said, I'm sorry, Dr. Bach, in that state I'm not going to dress my child and bring him over. And so I phoned up to Len, to my husband, to the factory, crying, what am I to do? She says, look, dress yourself, take your medical books, because we just moved there, we don't know anybody, you know the greengrocer, go to him, he will recommend you to a doctor. So he recommended me to a doctor. I ran quickly to this doctor. The doctor came to see Stuart, and he didn't recognize that he had measles. He thought he's got this eczema, and Stuart is not getting better. He comes next day, he's full of these spots and all this. He gives him an injection. It took about 5 minutes to hold the needle in him to clear this heavy breathing. And it doesn't help. He calls the ambulance. They take the child there because he realized it was measles. They took the child away, half dead, to the isolation hospital somewhere in Hendon, off Kingsbury, somewhere, I don't remember. And the child was unconscious for about 8 days. We only could see him through the window because it was he was in isolation. He married a lovely girl, Caroline, comes from Leicester, and the lovely girl, he's happy with her. We try to help as much as we can to put him on his feet. And I don't think he's going to have any children, because she's about 6 years older than him. So I don't know, please God, if she'll have, she'll have. If not, we're quite happy that they are together, and she looks after him very, very well, and he's happy, and thank God for that.
And you see them?
Oh yes, very often I see them all.
That's
yes,
lovely.
oh yes, they live in Edgware, and that's all. What can I say more? We had to close our business about 8 years ago because we didn't want to lose any more money and to be bankrupt. This is what we didn't want, so we just closed it and sold what we could. Somebody took over the lease from us, and then I started to suffer badly with my back, which I suffered for many years. But
a disc problem?
Yes, the third disc went over, one on top of the other, and what can I say?
Do you think that's related to your early
I have this, I
experiences?
can't tell you. I did work very hard, and I started to suffer with the disc. I remember we had once a Christmas party, and I put a turkey into the oven, and I just couldn't move myself, and my friend had to carry on with this Christmas dinner. I was flat on my back. We called the doctor. He somehow pulled me, and I was better somehow. But whatever I did after this, I just had to put a blanket under the mattress, and it went again. But anyway, so
So how would you say you are now? How would you say your health is now,
my
generally?
nerves are not well. I mean, you can see.
I hope that
And
relating your story hasn't
yes.
made you
Oh,
feel
no. It's before
worse,
as
or-
well. I speak to my husband. He gets very irritable because I speak loud. I shout. If he just does something wrong, I shout at him, which is very wrong. And you know, it is very difficult sometimes. He's a very good man, but it is very difficult.
Do you take any
Not for the
medicines?
moment. I used to take Valium for many, many years. But then my husband said, stop it, don't take. I used to take Librium, all sorts of things. You name it, and I used to take. But then I realized sitting on the chair and rocking myself and be like a cabbage. And then the last what I took was Valium. And I stopped taking about 1.5 years ago when they start saying, oh, it's bad for you, bad for you. So Len started nagging me. You will never get out of it. You will never get out of it. You're becoming a drug addict. I said, look, let's go for holidays. But I have nobody to worry about, nobody to worry about my children, about anything. And I prove it to you that I can be all the time on holidays without a Valium. And I did prove it to him. But then when my nerves were bad, I was only taking for the night a 5 milligram.
Mm-hmm.
But about a year ago, I stopped it. Maybe I should take something now. I don't know.
I wouldn't take it without...
Oh, I don't take it. Of course not. Of course not. I can't get it without a prescription anyway.
Now tell me, Barbara, do you have dreams about this terrible...
Funny enough, I don't. I don't.
Did you ever?
Very seldom. I only had dreams when I left my mother and I went to Auschwitz. They took me to Auschwitz. Then I had a dream, what they've done to her. That's why I have been ill. I went to Auschwitz ill with diarrhea and sicky. Yes. I told you the girls were holding me up, giving me sugar. Strange girls. I didn't even know them. But I suppose they knew what's waiting, and they were holding me up. And every time on the sail appeal we stand, booms I went. And thank God it was dark. But anyway. And when I had this back trouble, we had to move away from this big house because it was too much for me, and the stairs I couldn't take anymore. So we moved in to Wembley, to a bungalow, because Len took a job in the West End. People he knew, because being in the business, so he knew people, and he was in the sample room there, a manager, and till his retirement. He was working there, I think, for 2.5. First he was working, I think, first he took a job in the Salvation Army. And then they closed the floor, so he got the job by this person whom he knew. And till he retired, he was 65, which was 2 years ago. 1st of December, 2 years ago.
Well, what happened to the business?
Our business, I told you, we sold it as much as we could.
And they didn't want your husband to continue?
Oh no, because a completely different people took over. There were people doing curtains. So they bought the curtains from us and the machines from us and lining, whatever. And we had other people to come to buy the materials, and that's how we got out of it. And thank God we didn't have to go bankrupt and sleep quietly, without worries. But going back to Stuart, as I say, he was quite ill all the time. He was not very academically minded. I did try with the grammar school and all this, but I thought, why should I push the child too much? So he started also with the jewelry, which had much more education in the jewelry than my older son, Harvey, because he went to a jeweler where he taught him from A, and he could make beautiful jewelry as well. And but he had to leave the job because the metal was starting to affect his skin because of the asthma, of the eczema.
Yes.
He had to leave it. So he took a job in Gerrard's, in Regent Street.
Oh, Gerrard's. Yes.
Gerrard's.
Yes.
As a salesman, he was quite happy there. And then we saw an advert. Philip Antrobus was advertising for somebody, and knowing Philip Antrobus, because I had, going there to have my jewelry revalued. But this one was in Knightsbridge, and they took him in. They even paid his fares for a year, and after about 7 months, they gave him the sack. And the child got himself very, very upset. We did not know that they were closing 3 months afterwards in Knightsbridge. The only left now is the one in Bond Street. But they didn't tell Stuart, and Stuart thought, what has he done wrong and all this. And they gave him a very good references. And then he started working in Bishop's, in another shop, as also in jewelry, and as a salesman. And he worked there for 3 months. Friday was everything okay. He goes Saturday. The windows are shut. Everything is shut. And the director of the business with the accountant was there. That they're closing the shop, they paid him out. Again, he lost his job.
Through no fault of his own?
No, no.
Oh.
Then he got a job in Church Street in Kensington because they needed somebody to value jewelry. Because Stuart also went to school, to a polytechnic, to learn about stones, you see. Oh, yes. And then he went there before Christmas, and after Christmas in February, they said, oh, they're not busy now, they don't need anybody. So poor Stuart got himself in a terrible state. It was really, he didn't want to fill up another form anymore. And I was very worried. I went with him to a psychoanalyst, and was very tough. So in meantime, from his money from his bar mitzvah, we put it towards it. We bought him a flat in Wembley.
How old was he by this time?
That time, it was about 20, 21. And we let the flat, and he was staying at home. We let the flat, he was staying at home. Then it was very tough for me. You see, I don't see. He got himself better, thank goodness, and we started making arrangements to Israel. We thought it better if he goes to Israel, but what we were thinking, when he comes from Israel, we'd like him to get a place to live, to buy a house where he could have a flat for himself to live as well, and to give him an income. And if he wants to take a job with it, it'll be up to him. But as long as he can stand on his own 2 feet, it will be much better for him and for us. So before he went away, he gave my husband authority to sign for him everything, and we saw already this house in Hendon, which had 5 flats, which was fantastic. And we were on the verge of selling the flat, and you know, in unlucky's luck, we had burglar in our house, and they took all my silver away, all our paintings, the video, everything they took away. So we had money from the insurance people, and that helped us to help Stuart to buy this property with the money from his flat and all this. And he went to Israel. He was there for 3 months. But before he went to Israel, actually he met his future wife, Carol, and he didn't want to go. I said, look, Stuart, you made your mind up to go to Israel. Go there, see what life is about a little bit. And so he went. He was staying in a few kibbutz, and then he stayed with the family, and he came back. He came back, and in meantime, this house was being ready to be let. So he came, he let everything, and made himself ready, 1 flat for himself. He didn't like it so much to live by himself and to do things for himself. And he was mostly eating with Carolyn, his future wife. So they got engaged and got married. And now they live at Edgewell. They're very happy, and he's quite well, and thank God everything is okay. And now my husband is retired, and we're living a quiet life. He never told me any problems what he had in his business or properties. Of course, when I was there in the business, I could see what was the problems. But in the properties where he had the problems, he never told me either. So, knowing that my nerves are bad, and now he doesn't tell me. And the properties, of course, help us with our living. And I was always mad about having a nice home. So, like other people running for holidays and all this, I put money into the...
You love being at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mention to you that 15 years ago I also had an operation, and part of my breast was taken away because the cancer was just this here. So I've got just a big hole here, and it was malignant. I had very tough radium treatment, which I suffer from it now. That's why I've got this chest problem. And my radiologist, Dr. Strickland, who is very, very good to me, he explained to me that the tissues are burnt and muscles and around the lungs. And I'm getting, if I make a certain move, the whole side is hurting me, but I suppose I have to be grateful to God that I'm here. And that's all, and that is my life story. And my husband is good to me, and as I say, we try now to live a quiet life, just to go away as much as we can, whatever we can afford it to go away.
You like to go abroad?
Yes, we do go away abroad because of the sun. I wish it would be sun in England, I wouldn't go away. But for the last year, 2 years, we didn't go so much because we had to help our children. We had to have a bigger shop, and Stuart got married, and we have to put our priorities first. If we see our children happy and well, and not short of anything, so we are happy and we are well. And as soon as something happens to the children, my nerves are going, so it's no good.
When you look back, those terrible years, what are your feelings? Are they
Bitter.
bitter,
Bitter.
angry?
Very. What happened to my parents, to all these Jewish people who are so innocent, who done nothing wrong, always have been generous? Terrible.
Do you feel enough is done now to
No.
bring it to the knowledge
It's
of the
not
people?
enough. It's not enough. People don't understand what happened. People do not realize what happened. I meet some people who think, oh, there are a lot of other charities you have to help, not Israel. We don't live in Israel, nothing to do with Israel, not realizing if Israel goes down, we have to bury ourselves. They don't realize that. If Israel does not exist, a few years ago, I remember when I was living in Easton. My children were still young, just going to school. Harvey maybe was, I don't know, 15, taking his O-levels. Stuart, I don't know, maybe 9, because it's 6 years difference between them. And I was watching television. And here they're showing these fascists in England, in London. I was just going mad. I said, if we have to go through that, I was willing to kill my children and myself. They shouldn't go through that. That's how I feel strongly about it. I would not like my children to go through it, not other Jewish children to go through it. It was terrible.
So I was just wondering what you thought in your own mind would be a good way of bringing knowledge of what would happen to in education or to
That's
the
right.
world in
In
general.
the children at school should be taught what happened. It's a part of history. What happened in Germany? It's a part of history. I do not understand why they don't teach children at school what happened. Only putting hatreds all the time against the Jewish people. It's just terrible how they hate us. We are people who help, Israel is always the first one to send their doctors. They haven't got themselves, but they share with all the world whatever happened in Biafra. Anywhere, they are the first one to send help. Does Russia send? Never they sent anybody yet to help other people. And Israel is first always to help. And why do they condemn us all the time? When they were putting Israelis, when they were in 67, where all the Arabs were wanted to put Israel into the sea, the Jewish people, everything was all right. They were sorry for the Israelis. They were sorry for the Jewish people. But as soon they stand up for themselves, nobody wants them. Everybody's against them. Why? Aren't they entitled to live? We came to England. Nobody helped us. We didn't go to the labor exchange. We didn't go anywhere. We worked hard with our 10 fingers to bring to be independent. We didn't go back to Germany, make camps. You give us back homes, give us everything. We didn't go to Russia, give us back our homes. Nothing. Why don't these Arabs give them help? Why do they put camps around it? They have so many Arab countries. Why doesn't the world not understand that Israel has to exist? If something happens again, they have to have a country. Why is it? Why do they hate us so much? Why is this? Never anti-Semitism goes away, and goes on and on and on. It's frightening. I am very frightened for my grandchildren. I am very frightened because people are pull their hands down. They don't want to help Israel anymore. They said, oh, it's not necessary. To them, Israel is a charity. Israel is a must, not a charity. When I hear somebody charity to Israel, I tell them, Israel is not a charity, Israel is a must. Where will we all be if Israel doesn't exist? I know England was very good to us, I must tell you. And my husband would be always willing, would be the first one to fight for England. But Israel has to exist for Jewish people. Right. And who is in Israel? People who went through this experience, what we went through, what I went through. My husband's 2 sisters who were in Auschwitz are there. I'm sure that about 60% Jewish people, Israelis, are the ones who went through the Holocaust.
Did you ever think of going to Israel yourself?
To live, you mean?
Yes.
We did actually. But then my children are here. They're born here. And then again, my nerves are very bad with all what's happening there. And my husband's family, my husband's sisters, they are not very well off there either. One is in a kibbutz, the other one had a business didn't go so good, and the husband is not well, and now the daughter is not very well, and I can't take it all. I have enough with my own family. If I go there for holidays, it's really not a holidays. No. I really come home and I'm very upset. Yeah. And hearing this one was killed and this one that and that one, it's just not for my nerves. Maybe if I would go straight away instead to England, to go to Israel, maybe you get used to this life. But I'm already accustomed so much to the English life. And
well, that's where you came to first after the war.
Don't forget, I am already here for over 40 years. Now I'm 61.
If in the early stages, when you first moved here, if you'd thought of going to Israel, in the early stages.
No, because I tell you
what. Because of family here, you obviously came.
Yes, I came to my family. My grandparents were here. My family was here. My husband was living here, and then I didn't have the strength to go and fight anymore. I didn't.
Yes. Can I also ask you? Do you know what happened to your friend Irma Weiss?
I don't know.
You lost touch with her?
I lost touch with her. She is in. She was living in. She was much older than I am, and her husband was still older. I know she had a son because she sent me the picture, but I don't know what happened.
And there were several things I think you said that you recall now. That you while we were talking before.
I mentioned before that we were taken from the barn where we were on top of the straw, and Alsatian came with a farmer.
And this was after you'd left Lodz.
Oh, that is
Or was
after.
after you
That's
left
Pirskau.
Auschwitz?
After Pirskau.
After Pirskau.
Yes. Where they started with the death march, and I hid
When
while.
you escaped from the death march.
That's
Yes.
right. And first, you remember, we went down ourselves to the village.
Yes.
And took all the boiled potatoes,
potatoes.
and they arrested us, and then and they left us in the middle, because as they were taking us down, the town was burning, and we ran quickly back to the barn, and we thought, now we've got boiled potatoes. I don't remember how long we were there, or a week or 10 days or 8 days, and the Alsatian came with a farmer, and he barked so long we had to come down, and they arrested us. And they were only policemen, not anymore assessmen. And they took us to this farm where there were other girls, Jewish girls, also a transport, but not from my transport. They were different. And they were taking them the next day. Now, they took us, me and Irma, we went there to the kitchen working to peel potatoes, and a Pole was working there. And the man who was working in the kitchen, a German, the Pole approached us, and Irma, I told you, spoke German. And they told us that tomorrow they're taking everybody away, and he wants to hit us. And we should go, when we go to sleep, we should climb up into the loft, because we are sleeping again in the barn, but there we are working in the kitchen. So we had the opportunity to go to the loft. And that's how it happened, you see. And then the next day, they called, they done what they wanted in the night. And then the next day, the police came again and arrested us. And that's how it started, that we are going from one town to another, from one town to another. They're giving us police was taking over, till one policeman asked us, who are we? So we said, so I looked at her and she looked at me, and we said, we are Poles, not Jews, Poles, and then we are on the Polish-German, on the Polish-German border, the Russian border, Polish-Russian border, and the Germans, Russians were coming, and our papers were left there. We didn't want to be framed by the Russians, and we ran. And that's how we are here. And they believed us. Till one day they left us in the middle of the town, I told you before,
yes.
And we start making our own way, and that's all.
Yeah, so that's how it happened.
That's how it
Do
happened.
you think that, thinking back on your story, there's anything you'd like to add to that, or do you feel?
I don't know.
I think you've been very thorough. It's.
I think so. That, but I'm just going. I'm working so hard. I have afterwards such a terrible headache. I have to take paracetamol and go to sleep, because my brain is working overtime with this.
I'm very aware that the story you're telling me is coming out, I think, for the first time for a long,
Completely.
long time.
Oh yes.
You.
Oh yes.
And I must ask you, I do hope that it hasn't upset you.
Oh no. It didn't upset me, because I sometimes like to talk about it, funny enough. When people ask me, I tell them a little bit, because I want to let them know what happened, you see. I feel bad about it afterwards, because I get myself terribly worked up. But I don't mind telling, because I want people to know what happened.
Do you feel it helps you to talk
I don't know
about
if it helps me. This I don't know, because I'm ill afterwards. I know it. I am. I am ill. But I like to talk about it, and then I'm ill. Let's say if they show something on television about concentration camps and all this, I am absolutely glued to the chair. I am sobbing, not crying, sobbing. And now when my husband, no, my children would get me out of that chair. It's just because a lot of things I get to know what I did not know. Let's say I did not know when I was in B-Lager, I did not know that they were taking girls there and doing experiments. Then I find out afterwards, after the war. That's why the Judenälteste, the Blockälteste actually, she sent me back to sea lager. You see? Oh, everything. I mean, if I would know all these things, I think I'll kill myself there, like the other girls used to do, knowing what's happening. They were experimenting on them, which I did not know. I didn't know many things.
Yes, Mengele's famous experiments.
Yes.
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 Well, I think if you feel you've given us your story, I must say thank you very much.
You're
indeed.
very, very welcome.